We all saw the tears streaming down his face on Monday night, and we all felt that same pit in our stomachs, fearing the absolute worst for the future of this defense. But Raheem Morris just dropped a massive update that completely changes the narrative for 2026, and honestly, it is the miracle news we desperately needed before this final game against the Saints. What is going on, Falcons Nation? Welcome back to the channel where we keep it real about the Dirty Birds every single day. I am coming to you from the home studio today because the news cycle does not stop for the holidays, and neither do we. We have a lot to unpack today, from a season-saving injury update to some absolutely wild comments from Raheem Morris regarding our quarterback mess. But before we get into the heat of it, do me a huge favor, smash that like button and make sure you are subscribed so we can hit our goal of 50,000 diehard fans before the offseason officially begins. Let's start with the news that had every single one of us holding our breath. Brandon Dorless. When he went down against the Los Angeles Rams, it looked catastrophic. We saw him on the cart, he was bawling his eyes out, and usually, when you see a tough defensive lineman reacting like that, you immediately think ACL. You think, okay, he is done for the rest of this year, and he is probably missing half of next season too. It felt like a punch to the gut because Dorless has been a bright spot in a weird season. But I am thrilled to report that we dodged a massive bullet. Raheem Morris confirmed this morning that it is just a hamstring injury. Now, obviously, he is not going to suit up for the final game against the Saints, and that is fine. We do not need him to risk it. But Raheem said if this happened in Week 4, he would have only missed a couple of games. This means no surgery, no grueling year-long rehab, and most importantly, he will be 100% ready to rock by the start of the 2026 season. And thank goodness, because we need him. Think about what we have seen from him this year. He might not have that lightning-fast twitch speed of a James Pierce Jr., or that freakish all-around athleticism of a Jalen Walker, but Dorless has proven to be an absolute finisher. It is interesting when you look at the advanced stats because his pressure rate is actually hovering around 8%, which is lower than some of the elite interior guys like Jeffrey Simmons. But here is the thing, Dorless converts. When he gets his hands on the quarterback, the play is over. He is tied for the team lead in sacks for a reason. Getting a fourth-round pick to produce at that level is high value, and knowing that our defensive core will remain intact for 2026 is a huge relief. This defense dominated Matthew Stafford and the Rams on Monday Night Football, making his life a living hell, and it proved that the talent is there to compete for a championship. But that brings us to the frustrating reality, doesn't it? If we have this kind of talent on defense, and we have weapons like Bijan and London, why are we sitting here stressing about the future instead of resting starters for a playoff run? This team should have won 10 or 11 games easy. The talent is there, but the execution and the coaching have let us down. And speaking of coaching, Raheem Morris faced the music at his press conference today regarding the quarterback carousel, and his answers were, let's just say, controversial. He was asked point-blank if he regrets pulling Kirk Cousins and starting Michael Penix Jr. earlier this year, especially now that Kirk has come back in and stabilized the offense. Raheem's answer was a firm no. He said Penix was their QB1 at the time, and he does not regret the decision. Now, I want to be fair here. I understand why they made the switch. Kirk was clearly hiding injuries earlier in the season, he was trying to justify that massive contract, and the team was sliding. You drafted Penix 8th overall. You had to see what the kid had. If Raheem hadn't played Penix, this fanbase would have rioted. So, the decision to play him? I get it. But here is where I have to strongly disagree with Coach Morris. In that same breath, he said Michael Penix Jr. was outstanding and awesome during his time as the starter. Raheem, with all due respect, stop it. We watched the games. Penix was not outstanding. Was he terrible? No. Was the losing record entirely his fault? Absolutely not. But a 3-6 record with an 88 passer rating is not outstanding. It is. Okay. It is. Rookie learning curve. He showed flashes of being a franchise guy, but let's not rewrite history just to justify a draft pick. When you take a quarterback in the top 10, you expect them to elevate the team above the chaos. Look at guys like Caleb Williams. Even when his coaching situation in Chicago was a dumpster fire, you saw elite traits popping off the screen every single week. With Penix, we saw a guy who can operate from the pocket, sure. But did we see a superhero? Did we see a guy who can put the team on his back when the coaching fails? I don't think we saw enough of that. He didn't look like the reason we were losing, but he also didn't look like the reason we would win a Super Bowl tomorrow. This situation leads to the biggest debate we are going to have all off-season, and I really want to hear your thoughts on this because I am torn. Here is the question of the day. Who should be the Week 1 starter in 2026? Do we restructure Kirk Cousins, keep riding the hot hand, and let Penix sit for another year? Or do we rip the Band-Aid off, trade Kirk, and force Penix to learn on the job? I want to see your arguments in the comments below because this decision is going to define the next 5 years of this franchise. Here is the reality we are facing as we head into this final game. Kirk Cousins has come back in, and the offense looks functional. Actually, it looks better than functional. It looks capable of winning the division. If Kirk wins this final game against the Saints and finishes his stint 5-2, how do you cut him? The gap between Kirk and Penix has shrunk significantly. Right now, today, Kirk Cousins gives you a better chance to win football games. That is just a fact. But Penix is supposed to be the future. The problem is, his leash is getting shorter by the minute because he didn't set the world on fire when he had the chance. It puts the front office in a brutal, almost impossible spot. And I think it ultimately comes down to the head coach. If the Falcons decide to fire Raheem Morris and clean house after this season, that is a clear signal. That means we are hitting the reset button. In that scenario, you trade Kirk, you bring in a new offensive mind, maybe a Ben Johnson type, and you go all in on developing Penix. It basically becomes his second rookie year. You give him a fresh slate. But if you decide to keep Raheem Morris, then I think you almost have to keep Kirk Cousins. Think about it. Raheem is coaching for his job right now. He does not have the luxury of time. He cannot afford to let a quarterback develop through growing pains for another season. He needs wins immediately. And right now, Kirk Cousins is the guy delivering wins. If you keep Raheem, you might as well keep Kirk. Maybe get a new offensive coordinator who can tailor the scheme to what Kirk does best, and try to make a run with this veteran roster. Because let's not forget, the window is wide open. We have a roster with Bijan Robinson in his prime, Drake London dominating on the outside, and a defense anchored by guys like Brandon Dorlus that can shut down elite offenses. This team is ready to win now. We are just missing that one piece of clarity at the most important position in sports. It is frustrating because we are so close. We are a few coaching decisions and one quarterback decision away from being a legitimate contender, not just for the NFC South, but for the conference. So, as we look ahead to this final game against the Saints, don't just watch the score. Watch how the team responds to Kirk. Watch the energy. Because this game might just determine the fate of the entire coaching staff and the quarterback room for 2026. It is going to be a wild offseason, folks. But at least we can sleep a little easier tonight knowing that Brandon Dorlus is safe, his knee is fine, and he will be back to wreak havoc next year. That is the one bit of purely good news we can cling to. That is all I have got for you on today's breakdown. I have got to run some errands and get ready for the weekend, but stay tuned because as soon as that final whistle blows on Sunday, we are going into full off-season coverage mode, and you do not want to miss it. Make sure you are subscribed, leave a like if you enjoyed the update, and as always, rise up,